Hi, this is uncanny, and this is your intuitive counseling tip of the day. Sometimes we are the message that somebody else needs. And related to that, sometimes we will hear messages from people we either know or from strangers that are uncanny in terms of either the timing of receiving it and or the actual message itself. What does that mean? Well, let me give you some examples also that might illustrate it. Often when we need either some support or are struggling in some way, or even are just questioning, are we going in the right direction? Are we in our flow? Are we making the right decision? All these kind of things, even just things that are like kind of positive, like just like, the send me a sign from the universe kind of thing. Often signs or messages will come from unexpected, often, people around us, and sometimes even just complete strangers at certain times. Sometimes the message is literally mostly in the form of the timing, like for instance, just hearing from someone or someone checking in on you at like the exact moment in a way that you kind of needed someone to, or just even as almost like a wink from the universe about connection or that support is there. Other times it will be an actual message that you need to hear. So sometimes that can come in the form of an overheard conversation, or something that you again hear kind of in the ethers around you. Sometimes it can come in terms of something kind of again unexpected that someone says to you, or sometimes, I don't know, at least in New York City, I know a lot of people who've had this experience, or in different areas, doesn't have to be New York City, but kind of in an area where there's a lot of people, or it's easier to have like random experiences with people. Sometimes a stranger will literally kind of say something to you that seems really on point and almost uncannily on point. Again, sometimes that could be creepy, but what I'm talking about is not necessarily like a lack of boundary or bad instance of that, but rather sometimes when you just hear something that you're like, God, almost like the way a lot of people describe it, and I've had those experiences, it's almost like, God, was that person even really real? Because it was so uncanny. It was almost like a message got sent just for you at that particular moment. To give you some examples of that, there's been times, like a particular time when I was kind of struggling with something and had like just a really like intense dream. That was like one of the more intense ones that felt really real and kind of had me, just kind of, when I woke up, still kind of almost feeling like the after effects of a dream like that. It wasn't a positive dream. It was like a really hard dream. And all of a sudden, I happened to have my phone on, which usually that early in the morning I don't. And all of a sudden a text came through from my cousin. And it was just really simple text, kind of checking in or asking me how I am. So what was interesting about like that example was my cousin and I were definitely deeply connected. She's a very intuitive person. She's actually one of my only cousins that I have, but we don't speak that much. We don't text that much. We don't communicate that much. And then when she has communicated, it's never been kind of out of the blue that early in the morning. And what was interesting is it wasn't so much anything she said. The text was literally just kind of checking in, but it was this real deep, like the way I felt it wasn't even what my head did with it, it gave me like an instant dose of kind of faith and comfort to be like, wow, especially because it was from an unexpected person in an unexpected time. It was really like a feeling, like a reminder, like support is here. Remember what you know to be true, about connection, unseen and seen. And there was something in that moment, even though I've had so many experiences like that in my life, that just felt like a moment of grace and felt like so kind of like one of those like mini miracles kind of thing. And when I spoke to her that morning, so we ended up connecting, she had said she didn't know why, but she just like woke up or just really felt strongly like, oh, I need to connect with Alana. Like I need to reach out to her for some reason. So there's a few things that I want to share with you about that experience, to kind of broaden that out. It's a great reminder, whether you're on the receiving end or whether a message comes to you in service of someone else, like it never hurts to listen to those soul whispers. In fact, often there's just such a huge gift, not only for the person who's meant to receive it, but hopefully also for yourself as well. Because, again, that moment of grace very much felt shared between the both of us. So I was able to tell her, like, wow, I'm just really moved, that a message came through for you, but that you listened. So kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about in this video was just a reminder. It's so easy to kind of have a flash of a message about somebody, and often it just comes very simply, like wanting to check in on somebody, or how are they, or sometimes it could be that you're worried about somebody, or sometimes you're just thinking of someone, or actually literally get some kind of message like, oh, I need to contact that person, or I should reach out. And, to listen to that, like it really doesn't hurt to listen to that. The only caveat I would say, but it's a very different energy that you'll feel the difference in, is sometimes when we are unhealthily kind of in contact or in relationship with someone, even somebody maybe we haven't spoken to in a while, sometimes it can feel a little tricky that, somebody's popping into our head, or like even obsessively we could be, connected or thinking I want to reach out to somebody, but the energy will feel different in terms of something that's unhealthy and something about like kind of a hunger or an addiction in terms of a relationship, or again, like an obsessiveness. That will feel very different in your body and kind of in your spirit. What I'm talking about is a very different kind of frequency, if you will, and it's palpable. It's usually kind of out of nowhere. It either feels really positive or just kind of neutral. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking about this person, but like, I feel like I'm supposed to reach out. There's often, like I said, like kind of either neutrality or a different type of urgency that's not unhealthy entanglement. And so I would suggest, like, if it feels right to you, like, listen to it, follow that thread, follow that soul whisper, and see what happens. And then on the other side of things, in terms of receiving it, it never hurts, to ask the universe, your guides, your higher self, like whatever is kind of your way to connect to something that maybe, again, feels more universal, or dare I say, like, I'm putting this in quotes, kind of larger than you in terms of a universe speak. It never hurts to say, I could really use like a sign or a message or a point of connection, and sometimes it comes in right away and sometimes it doesn't. So it's about almost, again, like I often like saying, being all in but unattached. Like, you put it out there, but you don't take its temperature. You kind of just stay open to receiving the message. And the message can be, again, in a lot of different ways. It could be you walk into a store and a song is on that's so uncanny or so specific, either like a memory or something connected to something that you're trying to work through. It could even be like, I know that that's happened a lot to clients that I know, or to myself, when there's been a loss of someone dear to you, and it's something that like you're really in it, or a moment where you're really thinking of them, and just seemingly out of nowhere on the radio, or in a mix on Spotify that just comes on, or you walk into a store or place, you'll hear a song that's so specific that it just communicates something so clearly to you. Or sometimes it actually can appear, and this is always interesting because I often hear it described in a similar way, and I've definitely described it this way. Sometimes it's almost as though the universe will kind of like find someone, maybe even someone you don't know, and just like give you a message at a particular time that feels kind of out of nowhere. And often the way that I hear it, the story retold, or the way that I felt it, is almost like it was almost so uncanny that I didn't even know if that person was real. That it almost was like that person appeared out of nowhere and kind of said something. Now, being a New Yorker, sometimes people say things all the time out of nowhere, and it could be kind of freaky, or like lack of boundary, or something that's not, something you want to have a boundary about. But I'm not talking about that kind of experience. Again, your body will know kind of the difference. I'm talking about like sometimes, and I think most of us have experienced something like that, like somebody you don't know just says something. Maybe there's some part that kind of makes sense of it or that feels connected to the reality of the moment, but it's almost like so uncanny. As an example, I've had that happen to me so often in my life. It could be like, in an Uber driver on a specific day just starts talking about something that's so like a message I needed to hear or so on point with something I not necessarily even asked the universe for, but something that, was helpful or connected for me. Or sometimes, I'd overhear a conversation almost, just being in proximity, especially since I don't try to listen to other people's conversations. The fact that I would like hear that part of the conversation that was so kind of on point or something I needed to hear. Or I've had really like from deep to light experiences where it's almost like somebody appears from nowhere and says something that really is like a bomb, like BALM bomb. BALM, yeah, that's the right spelling. Like not a bomb, BOMB, but like a bomb for my soul or for my heart. And sometimes it's just, again, a fun thing or a positive thing, or sometimes it could be like really deep. Like I know people who've gone through like a really big loss or a moment of grief or a moment of just, again, a crisis of faith, that these kind of messages come through. In another way, sometimes it's of the animal world, which is a whole nother kind of video, a slightly different conversation. Like I know my mom who passed many years ago, she does happen to come to me often through a red cardinal, and just recently it again happened just a crazily uncanny way. And even in my head, I was just like, I hadn't seen her in a while in that incarnation as a red cardinal, and as if to like really prove the point that like, yes, it's me. She like this cardinal or another cardinal like incongruously like flew back around again just to be clear, it's me. My father, which is a whole nother story too, since he passed, often comes to me as a fox, which is fascinating for many reasons, and uncanny the times that he's come as an actual fox, like a real live fox. It's been really kind of undeniable, and even for me almost a little spooky, even though I so believe in this, how it's come forth. So I would listen to those soul whispers if a message comes to you for someone else, to tune in to whether to deliver that message. And sometimes, again, it could even come as a dream to you about somebody else, as well as just like a message or a knowing. But also for yourself to be open to kind of asking the universe or your guides or your higher self, like, I could use some reflection back, because sometimes we all need that. See how that works for you. I'd love to hear if you've had experiences like that. It will help, I think, others to kind of open to their own experiences, or to recognize that, or even to be like a beautiful messenger of a much needed message. So please feel free to share in the comments below what your experiences has been, or if you have any questions.